What's up everyone, Ronnie here, and today we're doing a tutorial on the reverse flyaway. So this is when you do a swinging backwards front flip from a bar. So to get started with this move, you first want to have a solid front flip and maybe a flyaway. Those aren't necessary because the motion for this move is completely different, but just being comfortable swinging on bars is important to be able to do this move. And so when you're ready to learn this move, find a bar that is actually at least taller than you are. I'd actually recommend it's tall enough that if you're hanging like this, your feet don't touch the ground. In this case, this bar is a little bit too low for me, but that's okay. It makes it more of a challenge and requires better technique to actually do it on a bar this low. So once you have this bar, to get started on this move, you're going to want to figure out the grip for doing this move, because I found my grip when doing the reverse flyaway is a huge factor in doing it successfully. Because what happens if I'm swinging back, if I have my grip here, if I'm swinging back and forth, and as I swing forward my grip comes forward, and then as I come back it's harder to reposition it to here as I go into the reverse flyaway. And so if I'm reverse flyawaying from this position, it's going to peel my thumb off and it's going to be harder to get power. But if I can keep my wrist locked in here as I do the reverse flyaway, I'm pulling from my fingers and I'm going to have a lot more power doing it. And so one thing that helps me do that to maintain a strong grip and to keep it positioned here instead of here is to actually try and get the reverse flyaway on the first momentum swing. So instead of swinging back and forth, I try and get the initial swing from the initial kick forward and backswing. And the best way to get momentum from that technique is to start with your hips a little bit back, and then you're going to jump up and kind of bring your knees up to your chest and lean backwards as you kick your feet up on the other side of the bar, and then just let them drop to get that swing. So once you have that first basic swing, and if you kicked your feet high enough, you should have enough momentum to then kick into the reverse flyaway. And so while I'm doing that initial first swing, I'm also trying to keep my grip as top heavy as possible, where my grip, my hand is mostly on top of the bar and not coming underneath like that, because that's where I can peel off and it's going to be harder to do. Once I have that whole swing out of the way, it's time to start going into the technique of the actual flip and the swing you want to have going into the flip. So as I'm swinging backwards, my feet are going to come through, and about at this point where my feet are passing the ground, I want to actually start kicking them up with my heels, kind of arching my heels towards my head to get more of that driving momentum and force that's also going to transfer into the rotation of the flip. And so I drive my heels, and then I'm also going to try and kind of push my hips out. The idea is to get your center of gravity as high as possible here. You don't want to be flying out away from the bar because you're going to lose rotation and height. So ideally you want to drive your heels towards the bar, your hips towards the bar, and then what's going to happen, and this is all about timing, is you're going to do a little tug as you release from the bar, because that tug, what it's going to do is it's going to pull your hips in really quick to give you more rotation as you go into the flip. Now the thing you want to avoid when doing this tug is full on pulling yourself into the bar, because you already have all this swinging momentum going towards the bar. If you're pulling too hard, well, you might just clip your feet on the bar, and you want to avoid that. So this tug is more just a little jerk to kind of jolt your body into the tuck. So after you do that little jerk and you then release from the bar, you're going to want to drive your chest down, your heels up, and your knees up as you go into that tuck. And you ideally want to do the entire tuck right here next to the bar, but not too close so that you don't clip it, but you don't want to be flying way out away from it, and you also don't want to be coming into it. So you just want this nice medium ground where you're going up and out just slightly, tucking and then opening up for the landing. And then finally, when you go to land this move, it's going to be a little bit more awkward because you're naturally going backwards with forward momentum. So it can be a little bit tricky to land successfully. It's easy oftentimes to over-rotate and your feet to kind of slip out, or to under-rotate and just your momentum causes you to fall backwards. And so with this technique, you just want to make sure you get a lot of rotation so that you have enough time to really open up solid to spot and catch your landing, because otherwise if you're tucking it all the way around and barely getting that around, it's going to be a super awkward landing and you most likely won't stay on your feet. So just keep that in mind for the landing. I have actually injured my knee randomly landing this trick because I actually over-rotated slightly but landed super tall and just locked my knees, and I hyperextended my knee slightly. It wasn't a serious injury, but it did happen, so there are injuries like that that are possible. So just make sure that you are aware of your landings and have strong landings and you're prepared for learning this trick. Now the biggest thing with this move is the timing on the release and everything involved in your body there, because if anything's just slightly mistimed, you're gonna have a much slower rotation. So it's the timing of the snap with your heels, with the tug, with the release to the tuck. All of those things have to happen very quickly within a short period of time to create an explosive flip. If any of those things aren't timed correctly, then your flip will just overall be slower. And to get the timing of that, it's just going to take practice and getting a feel for that motion, because you probably won't get it on your first try, but that's okay. I would recommend that you learn this move somewhere in a padded area where you can have a resi mat, or at this park I'm at actually has this soft rubber that's pretty deep, and so as long as I know I'm not gonna land on my head, I know I'll be all right. Falling on this stuff, it might not feel too well, but just keep that in mind as you're training. And as you first start learning this move, I'd recommend you have some sort of padding, and that you just, for the first time, try to get around your head so that you can get familiar with the actual flip. Especially if you can learn into a foam pit, that's optimal, but whatever you gotta work with, you just do what you know you can do safely and work from there. So that's your basic reverse flyaway technique. This one is, I would say, a little bit harder than the normal flyaway. It's gonna take better timing to get the flip around, and it's also going to be a more awkward landing. So just keep that in mind as you learn this move, and hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and good luck in learning it yourself. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and thanks for watching. Another great day to film tutorials. Today I'm gonna try and do a reverse flyaway tutorial, but I haven't done them in a long time, so I have to first practice them to make sure I can do them well enough to actually teach the proper technique. So let's see how my reverse flyaways are right now.